Hello, how are you? This week we are talking about the public management reform. So today I'm going to briefly explain Chapter 9, Final Line 9, Public Management Reform in the textbook and Moynihan Hawes in 2012 article, along with the Bryson's article as well. And we are talking about public management reform this week, and as you may know well, the reforms have a longer standing tradition in the United States as well as globally in the world. So generally, the reform means that something changed, in response to the, complex and uncertain environments, and as well as to something to overcome, the inefficient and ineffectiveness in the existing program and decision making. So what is public management reforms? Basically, some scholars mention some definition of a public management. For example, Polite and Burkhardt in 2004, they mentioned that delegated change to the structures and processes of public sector organization with the objective of getting them, in some senses, to run better, which means the public management reform something movement or change towards, effectiveness and better or improved performance. And also in the textbook, the Hill and Lynn mentioned that public policymaker and public managers employ their craft, their temperament, skills, and values to change the structure and culture status quo, whether it be of the government as a whole or of a department, bureau, or just a organization in the public sector to get better outcome as well. So this basic concept is sort of the reminiscence of American governments. As you may know, in American governments, we have, legislator and executives and judges, and so these entities tend to, have a tendency to beat up the bureaucracy to, improve their performance and to get more accountability and better outcomes, something like that. So this sort of the context, public management reform, have proceeds, continuously in our society. And then we need to think about managerialism. So what is managerialism? Background, beginning in the 1970s, a weakened economy and budgetary shortfalls began pushing American politics in the fiscally conservative directions. So based on this background, the managerialism came to our society. So managerialism can be defined or based on faith in the efficiency of management and managers as guarantors of efficient and effective public administration. So, at that time in 1970s, some movement and public, attention turned to the basic value, which is efficiency and effectiveness in the public sector. And later, executive branch movement under this managerialism. Yeah, when we think about our, American government history, under Reagan administration, the Grace Commission, and under Clinton administration in 1993, reinventing government movement, and also later, it can be related to the Reagan movement and Government Performance and Result Act. I remember I mentioned before in this class, and also Bush's management agenda, and later Obama's performance agenda. These things are, related to the managerialism to make our government and public sector to have more efficient and more effective. And more specifically, the Great Commission in 1970s and 80s, new public management NPM came to the public sector. The background, this idea was inspired by Margaret Thatcher in England. She highlighted the government should be, more effective, like business-like, or market-driven, or quasi-like, or more innovative forms. So along with the Margaret Thatcher's basic idea, President Reagan also, focused on this kind of concept. So new public management can be defined as a wave of reforms originating in Great Britain and New Zealand, And public management should mimic private management in its reliance on measured performance and competition. So the main idea just changed from bureaucratic, less flexible forms, but towards more, flexible and innovative way toward improved performance and more efficient and effectiveness kind of stuff. And so based among this kind of step, again, Grace Commission came to the public sector in federal government. So the purpose of this commission is to demonstrate how the intrinsically superior methods of the private sector might save the public funds and public money by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. So to overcome this kind of the unethical and fiscal mismanagement, so the basic idea is that just focusing on the business-like administration and skills, applicable to the public sector. And so more specifically, the reason and theoretical basis of new public management. In 1997, one scholar mentioned that there are some factors toward these reforms. So you may recall that some theories we already covered in the last classes, and generally accepted public, choice theories such as market theories and the principal agent theory and transaction cost theory related to the privatization or contracting out. This kind of the theoretical streams from UPM, NPM. So at that time, again, the public sector, have struggling with, lack of the public funds intergovernmental transfer. And also at the time, citizens' dissatisfaction with governments was higher than before. So ironically, politics government operating more like a business. So managerialism came to, this kind of concept toward was downsizing bureaucracy as well as improved managerial performance based, using private sector's management skills and operational, decision making. So common component of reforms, again, cutback management, and then we can think about, for example, privatization and contracting out and performance measurement and decentralization, devolution between, intergovernmental relationship, and also simplification of the base based on elimination or redefinition of central agencies and streamlining the rules and procedure, which means, move toward less bureaucratic but more flexible ways, mimicking private sectors. So this is the characteristic of and theoretical approaches. So this is actually not included in the textbook, but when you look at this table, there are some concepts, underlying of basic idea of new public management. So for example, here, cutback budget cuts and privatization, I already mentioned that. That can be related to the concept of new public management and decentralization here and competition. And then in the public finance and budgeting context, the government started to use the usual charges and vouchers in addition to the state and federal money because they are struggling. At the time, they were struggling with some budget, trend budget, the instability. And also they try to, use some legal spending constraints as well. And then they try to, develop some analytical and evaluation tools in measuring and managing performance kind of step. And later, in this line of the new public management, some of you may be familiar with this one, reinventing governments. This is also called REGO in the short terms. In 1990s, Osborne and Gabler, these are very, very famous scholar in the public sector. They, wrote one book, Reinventing Government, in 1992. So in this book, they argued that some Public reforms provided provocative and challenging ideas about approaches to public management and delivery of government services. So again, I already mentioned the privatization and the contracting out. Also, kind of this kind of the concept under new public management as well as reinventing government. And also, they mentioned that there are some attacks against the old-fashioned centralized bureaucratic model embedded in the public sector at the time. So it said at the time we need more, new innovative way to change and overcome some challenges in the public sector. And also they may mention that under Clinton administration, the National Performance Review, at the time the Vice President Al Gore's missions, the government agencies needed to develop their own evaluation tool of their performance and decision making toward more effective and improved performance. And later, again, the Osborne and Gabler strategy for reinventing governments. They mentioned at some points like this catalytical governments. The government need to be more steering rather than rowing, and the government should be changed toward more customer driven. So as well as the community-owned government is needed and enterprising government, which means more business-like and market-driven government is needed, and the competitive government is needed as well. And the government should be more anticipatory and mission-driven, and rather than rules and some red tapes. And also government decision making should be more decentralized, which means allowing some people and internal stakeholders to participate in decision making and managing the public programs. And also government act like more result-oriented entity. And also I already mentioned that the government should be changed more like business size, market-oriented government. And later, under Clinton administration, I already mentioned that in 1993, National Performance Review came to the public sector. So what is NPR? NPR reforms reflected the management trends with an emphasis on serving the customer, decentralization, empowerment, and relaxed control. So this kind of stem also, in the line with the previous Rego and new public management kind of the reforms. And also this reform, NPR, also involved a review of federal operation by a staff in Washington, D.C. under the leadership of, I already mentioned the Vice President Al Gore, and the impact of the NPR. So they tried to seek major reduction in federal jobs and reducing administrative costs in the federal government and reforming the federal procurement system, privatization or contracting out, and were more empowering frontline managers and employees, decentralization, and also establishing labor management partnerships. So this is also in the line with the public management and reinventing government. And so overall, we can say the main concept underlining new public management as well as national performance review is, seeking more efficiency gains in the public sector. So again, NPL, they have some major priorities and initiatives like this: cut red tape, which means more government should be changed more flexible, right, and more decentralized, without any, cumbersome rules and procedure in existing public sector public organization. And also they should, empower employees to get more results, and also put customers first, and they cut back to basic to eliminate what we don't want, collect more, invest in productivity and re-engineering to cut costs. So already in this line of concept, we need to think about contracting out. Why? government, to contracted out their services and goods. And also similarly, this kind of step, the Government Performance Result Act, was enacted in 1993. Also, this is under Clinton administration. So GPRA Act is a building block of America's expanding practice of performance management at all levels of government in the United States. So the foundation of GPRA is based on the following three elements like this. The agency should be required to develop 5-year strategic plans that must contain a mission statement for the agency as well as a long-term results-oriented goals covering each of its major functions. And also agency need to be required to prepare annual performance plans that establish that performance goals for the applicable fiscal year, a brief description of how these goals are to be met, and a description of how these performance goals can be verified. And the third one, agency must prepare annual performance reports. They should be report their result and performance that review the agency's success and failure in meeting its targeted performance goals. This is the basic three pillars of the GPRA Act. And later, in Bush's administration, major initiatives characterized significant system-wide changes to the government and the way government does business. They're aimed at reducing waste, as well as passing performance, and also improving efficiency. So the president's vision for government reform is guided by three principles. Government should be more citizen-centered, not bureaucratic, and also more result-driven, result-oriented, and also government need to be more market-based, actively promoting rather than stifling innovative motions and movement toward through competition. So present management agenda contain 5 government-wide and 9 agency-specific goals to improve management and deliver results that matter to the people and citizens. And I'm sure you can read by yourself, and then to get more information, just read the textbook. And then present management agenda, government-wide initiative, again, Bush's one. Major concept, again, strategic management of human capital it is important, and competitive outsourcing is required, and improved financial performance is needed, and expanded e-government, because we have many people using computer at work, at home. So e-government is very important to deliver information quickly and to manage the public program and the communicating with the government and contractor, or between government and citizens and government and clients and government and people. And also budget and performance integration is important. So President Management Agenda Scorecard was developed at that time. So the Executive Branch Management Scorecard tracks how well the departments and major public agencies are executing and implementing the 5 government-wide management initiatives. So the score system, there are 3 different colors, in there. Green for success, yellow for mixed result, which means not so, and red means unsatisfactory. So green one is much good and improved performance. So OMB assessed the agency's the progress and case by case. So green, again, implementation is proceeding according to the plan agreed upon with the agency. This is the ideal, result. And yellow one, I already mentioned the mixed result, and there, for example, there can be some slippage and or other issues requiring adjustment by the agency in order to achieve the initiative objectives on a timely basis. And last, red one, this unsatisfactory result and performance, so initiative in serious jeopardy. Unlikely to realize objectives absent significant management intervention might be observed. So based on these 3 different types of the scoring, this is the example. So red one, I already mentioned the unsatisfactory. The green one, which means very good. The yellow one means so-so between red and green. And then based on this color, you can differentiate the performance of each agency, like here, right? Agriculture, commerce, and defense, something like that. And then later, program assessment rating tool was developed, again under Bush's administration, which is called PART. So PART is a questionnaire designed to help assess the management and performance of programs. So it is used to evaluate the program's purpose, design, planning, management, results, and accountability as well to determine its overall effectiveness. So based on this evaluation, using PART recommendations are made to improve program result. So there are 7 parts categories like direct federal, competitive grant, block formula grant, regulatory, capital assets and service acquisition, credit, and result development. And part sample questionnaire like this. For example, does the program address a specific existing problem, interest, or needs? Is the program designed so that it is not redundant or replicative of any other federal, state, local, or private efforts? Does the program have a limited number of specific long-term performance measures that focus on outcomes and meaningfully reflect the purpose of the program? Or does the program have ambiguous targets, time frames for its long-term measures? Does the program, including program partners, achieve its annual performance goals? So these are basic sample question, and again some parts. So each part questionnaire includes 25 questions that are divided up into 4 sections. So first section of question asks whether a program's purpose is clear or whether it's well designed to achieve its objectives. So second section involves strategic planning in the long-term perspective. And third section rating the management of agencies program, including financial oversight, program improvement efforts. The first section of questions focus on the results the program can report with accuracy and consistency. So answer is ranged between 0 and 100, and based on their score, you can easily distinguish the rating: effectiveness, moderate or effective, and adequate or ineffective. There are 4 different rating ranges in the PART system. And also there are some pros and cons of a PART system. There are pros. Some scholars mentioned that PART can helpful to increase attention, to pay to program result, and also PART assessment asks some useful questions that highlight program management and design issues, and PART can make the performance information more transparent and easily accessible to the people. But on the other hand, there are some critics. The PART assessment is a blunt instrument with one-size-fits-all approach. It's more, quantitative things or can be more subjective in some ways, and also PART can be more dependent in part on the research that is not available. And PART assessment present capacity challenges, not management and real quality of the program and services. And PART assessments can be, again, I already mentioned, subjective, inconsistent, maybe depending on the measures and targets, and it is not fully trust-rated. And then Obama's administration, we can think of a performance agenda. At the first term of Obama administration, there are 4 initiatives over the first term. The first one is establishing an infrastructure to assess the impact of American Recovery Reinvestment Act on jobs. And the initiative have some identification, a list of programs that should have funding reduced or eliminated because of inadequate performance. And there are some ideas of having agencies establish high priority performance goals. And also there are some idea of committing significant time and resources to program evaluation, in part to assist with identifying what works, what does not. So this is basic concept of the Obama's performance agenda. And also CRS report titled Obama Administrator Agenda for Government Performance. They mentioned this aspect of the administration's performance-related agenda has yet to be articulated. It remains to see if previous announcements of plans will come to fruition and if the administration draws up previously announced plans or moves in a new directions. So based on this concept, it's Obama's second term. So new management agenda came to the public sector. So initiative builds on the past successes and the management agenda revamp, they need to be changed, will focus on three basic areas where the administration has already seen success. So there are three areas like this: finding ways to deliver government services more quickly and conveniently, and cutting duplicative and unnecessary programs, and then expanding the number and type of government data sets provided online. The last one is related to the e-governments. And more detailed to date on the revamped management agenda: effectiveness, efficiency, economy, and people are the main concept. So, unlike the new public management and, REGO, reinventing government, the Obama's new management agenda added some concept like economy and people, which means more accountability, and the government need to be more hold accountable for their performance and their people, something like that. So tide of reforms, again, scientific management tide in 1970s and 80s in the industrial era. The main goal was efficiency. And then after war on waste tide at that time, the main goal was economy. But later, watchful eye tides, here the main idea was fairness, and library management at the time, main concept was based on higher performance and outcomes. So I hope you can read by yourself in more detail. And there are some large-scale plan change. So obviously, this large-scale plan change involved main reform I already explained in the previous slides. So organization undergo major large-scale transformation and planned process of development in our history. And of course, during this time, there have been a resistance to change because obviously the federal level is more traditionally bureaucratic form of public organization. So change can be costly, troublesome, unfamiliar, threatening, and difficult to understand and accomplish in some agencies and some groups working in the public organizations. And also there are some types of change according to the draft: technology change, administrative change, and changes in product services and human resource changes as well. So this type of change is the sub-concept of each major reforms. We already covered in the previous slides. And then the public managers, what they have to do in this change, in these reforms. They can use the structure to promote change, and they can overcome resistance to change using, their structure, dimension, and craft, or they need to understand the organizational culture, empowerment, and, allowing people to participate in decision making, something like that. We already covered in the previous slide and previous weeks. And also I already mentioned that the public manager need to use their craft for successful innovation using the reform. And organization development also should be considered. So OD, organization development, is basically to improve the functional of organization, especially along human relations and social dimensions by applying social scientific theory and techniques. So organizational development value personal growth and richer, more meaningful, more enjoyable, more effective life for people in organization. So maybe we can think about rewards and, reputation, and then promotion, kind of the human service management efforts can be related to this concept of the organizational development internally, and also all the practitioner value commitment to both action and research and democratization and powerful equalization in organization. So, treat people and their subordinate equally, or, treat according to their individual performance. So this type of concept can be related to organizational development as well as the organizational performance in the long and broad way. And then later Moynihan Hawes the article and Bryson's article, actually the basic concept is very, very similar. So I will explain, by synthesizing these two different articles. So background, the research question is very simple. What fosters performance information use in the public sector? Why we need to use performance information for our, our outcome and performance and something like that for our life. So purpose is to explain what factors can lead to responsiveness to reform values in the context of education, which in this case took the forms of performance information use. So basically, the Moynihan Hawes article, they use some education data for the analysis. So data collected from 2009 and 10 round of Texas Superintendent Survey and the Texas Education Agency's objective data. And so their focus was perception of Texas school superintendents. Superintendent's perspective and perception is the unit of analysis of their study. So dependent variable, obviously, I'm sure you can read the article. And the performance information use. There are 6 survey items was used to create index variables. So survey asks the respondents to what extent they can use performance data for personal decisions, strategic decision, or day-to-day management, stakeholder advocacy, resource allocation, or efficiency. And then independent variable causes of this issue, stakeholder influence, reliance on partnerships and managerial network and environment complexity, student diversity, as well as stakeholder conflicts. And then after analyzing their data, they found some concept like this: hierarchical democratic accountability. From superintendent's side, superintendent's perspective. So this kind of accountability in the need for using performance information has been paid attention. So non-hierarchical democratic accountability can affect the performance management. So if public managers' performance information use is driven by the perceived influence of stakeholders and networking with other stakeholders and reliance on partnership, also if it is linked to the situation of greater diversity, student diversity, and conflict among stakeholders, then we can see some form of reasonable democratic ladder accountability, because they need to more reconciling diverse needs and different interests within the public sector. So overall, the author mentioned that superintendents are likely to be more both hierarchically or more democratically accountable, in the use of public information when they decide something and make some public policy. So discussion. So superintendent's ability to make information use may be affected by the administrative capacity of their district, central administration, or strategy, right? Not really, solely reliant on superintendent's ability. And also, performance information use is limited by the extent to which the organization has a unified identity and culture. So strong common identity and culture correlated to the great use of performance information. So which means the performance information use depends on school district identity and culture, and or superintendent's own perspective. So performance information use may vary depending on the superintendent's experience working within a district, And also, obviously, the use can be, depending on average class size. And also, the author mentioned the Texas school district tend to be defenders. The performance data, because are very retrospective, and superintendent seemed likely to use performance information to achieve efficiency gains, in the line with new public management and new public performance agenda, and then reinventing government kind of thing. So using performance data and performance information is, helpful to improve performance in school district, and they can make some more efficiency and more flexible and more accountable for their performance. So this is the main concept. And then this week, I already indicated the syllabus. So next week, I'm waiting for your reaction paper number 2. So due is the next Thursday, April 9th. And I like you to submit your paper through Blackboard. And then this week, we don't have any discussion questions. Thank you so much.